Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me for what promises to be a dynamic conversation with mixed media artist Levette Ballard and painters Monica Ikegwu and Megan Lewis. I am Myrtis Bedolla, the founding director of Galerie Myrtis, which is an emerging blue chip gallery and art advisory specializing in American art with a focus on work created by African American artists. Our mission is to utilize the visual arts to raise awareness for artists who deserve recognition for their contributions in artistically portraying our cultural, social, historical, and political landscapes, and to recognize art movements that pave the way for freedom of artistic expression. Tonight, we are gathered to explore The Beautiful and the Damned exhibition, which investigates the notion of American beauty standards and investigates and interrogates the racialized beauty standards and the politics of the Black body. We examine these themes through the lens of three women artists. To put the exhibition and the artist's works in context, I looked to the writings of two women on the subjects. First, Christine Marion, who in her 2019 thesis, American Beauty Standards, Paling in Comparison to the White Norms, wrote, America has a culturally accepted norm of what makes someone beautiful, a standard that is hard to meet. Being light skinned, blonde, blue eyes is the benchmark of beauty, of what is most desirable. But is that really what it takes to be attractive in America? Secondly, I turned to a poem by Dr. Margaret Burroughs, who is artist. She has since passed away, but she was an artist, educator, and scholar. Burroughs' poem, What Shall I Tell My Children Who Are Black? Reflections of an African American Mother, also serves as the framework to examine phenomena of beauty and damnation of the Black body by Western standards. And I'm just going to read the first stanza and third stanza from the poem. What shall I tell my children who are Black of what it means to be captive in their dark skin? What shall I tell my dear one, fruit of my womb? Oh, how beautiful they are when everywhere they turn, they are faced with abhorrence of everything that is Black. And then to the third stanza. What can I say, therefore, when my child comes home in tears because a playmate has called him Black, big lipped, flat nosed, and nappy headed? What will he think when I dry his tears and whisper, yes, that's true, but no less beautiful and dear? Historically, what Burroughs is responding to is the devaluation of the Black body, which is rooted in the institution of American slavery. And she touches on three critical points: skin color, hair texture, and facial features, which leads us to concerns of identity, self esteem, racism, sexism, and classism. Burroughs begins her poem expressing her fears, but ends by instilling confidence and cultural pride in her children, thus equipping all Black mothers with the words to do the same. Black bodies have largely been devalued and rejected by mainstream society, which overvalues the European aesthetic and undervalues the Black body. In The Beautiful and the Damned, the artists have taken agency over the notion of beauty and offer a counter narrative to the negative stereotypes associated with Blackness. Featured is the epitome of beauty, and to otherness they say, be damned. So thank you. That's our introduction. And now I'm going to lead into discussion and start by introducing Levette Ballard. I'm going to, hello, Levette. Thank you for joining us. You're on mute.
There we go.
Good to
Hello.
see you. Good to see
Hi.
you.
Good seeing you.
Good. So I am going to start by asking you, a little bit about your practice. Well, let's begin with your origin story. You are a mixed media collage artist, and tell us about your work and where you were born.
Well, I'm a Jersey-born, Philly-loved artist. I'm born in New Jersey. I'm initially from Northern Jersey. Now I live in Southern Jersey. Uh, I have always been an artist, according to my mom, rest her soul. Uh, I mainly focus on mixed media collage. Lately, I've been doing more installation work, uh, bringing in my collages. Uh, I really focus on uplifting, giving visual narratives to uh, Black women, women of color in general. I also sometimes focus on men in my work, and I love the idea of themes of feminism, the idea of somewhat even Afrofuturism, the idea of us being gods and goddesses in another life or another world or within this world. And also very much interested in our histories and how that plays into how we look at ourselves now while we're looking at our past selves.
Thank you. So I'm going to take everyone through a PowerPoint presentation where you can get a little bit more deep into your work. But at the moment, I'm just going to go to our other panelists, the other artists, just for a brief introduction, and then we're going to go to our PowerPoint. So Monica, I'm going to turn to you. Hi, Monica. Good evening. How are you?
Hello, I'm good.
Awesome. So you are mainly a figurative painter. So tell
Yes.
us a little bit about your practice and what informs your work.
So for me, I'm working more so with African American portraiture. And with me, instead of having like me put my own ideas on the figure, I'm having the figure direct what I'm painting. So with every person that I have model for me, I have them take control. So they get to pick their own clothing, they get to pick their own pose, they get to bring props in if they want to, they do all their styling. And then all I'm doing is just taking pictures of them and then essentially like customizing like a specific painting that fits their style. And based off of the clothing that they're wearing and all the elements that they provided me, that's how I determine what I put into the picture. So it's kind of like a collaboration where I'm letting them rewrite their own image to like not like get rid of, but like to like revamp what history has already done before. And but this time is more truthful because they're making all the
Mm,
choices.
great. So I know that a lot of your subjects are, in many cases, rather, they are your siblings and your peers. So we're going to talk a lot about that because they appear in the work that's in the exhibition.
Yeah.
For the moment, and also that you're a Baltimorean and want to know how
Oh
that
yes.
informs your work as well. So I'm going to go to Megan now. Megan, good evening. How are you?
Great, how are you?
All right, I'm going to call you Cool Megan tonight. It's good to see you. Megan, tell us a little bit about you, your work.
I'm Megan, West Baltimore. Um, so I'm known as a muralist, but I love oil paint. I don't know any of my subjects. Well, previously I didn't. I like
Mhm.
to keep a distance. That way I'm able to fantasize a little bit, but also project who I am into these people. I'm drawn to poses, eyes. I love gestures, movement, and I'm able just to, dig deep about who I am and then visually reflect that on canvas. The narrative has changed. I'm starting to take my own references, so you can't help but know who these people are. And just really just having fun and digging deep and being honest with myself, therefore the work can be really, really pure.
Yeah, the work is so beautiful, and I know it's rooted a lot in your statement. You wrote a lot about how you want people to feel when viewing the work. So I would like for you to really touch on that as we're going through the images of some of the paintings that you created for the exhibition as well. So I'm going to turn to the PowerPoint. And while I do that, I want to let our guests know that we will invite you to submit questions as toward the end of our discussion here. But for now, we're going to engage in the artists and allow them to really inform us about what drives their practice and the impulse behind the paintings that they created for the exhibition. So again, Levette has told us that her imagery reflects social issues affecting primarily Black women. And we're definitely going to see that in the work that she created for The Beautiful and the Damned. So Levette, can you take us through this piece and tell us about it? You're on mute.
Sure. The piece that I chose, the center image, which is the largest image, that woman, I believe her image came from Martinique. And it was something about her, I loved her skin tone. That was the first thing that drew me in. And she was very much dressed as though she was going to take a picture. Upon further research, I found this is very common for them to dress like that. And that intrigues me because growing up, you know, we're always taught, oh, you got to look your best when you go to church or going to so-and-so's house. And to think that is a cultural thing that goes across all of the African diaspora, I wanted to highlight that. This is the first time I use a different material in my work. This material is bark cloth. It is printed bark cloth, and the print I chose was a more contemporary print because I always try to bring in something very new and blend it with something very old. So the images are old, and the newness would be the bark cloth patterning. And
I'm sorry, and you're talking about the blue
the
fabric
blue orbs, they're all
okay.
bark cloth. And I also chose I like to choose images from different time periods. So the woman with the gun is one of the first female San Francisco police officers being trained. And the young girl is, her first name is escaping me, but she is McNair. She is one of the 4 little girls killed in the Birmingham bombing. And that photo was actually taken by her father. The 3 women were part of a expo that was held by W.E.B. Du Bois. And I called the piece Shine because I felt that in their own way, each of these women, even the young girl, this is what they were doing here. They were showing their beauty. They were showing their feistiness, their resilience. And as I mentioned before, my main goal when I'm creating these collages is to try to look at the images and do some research and give them a narrative that often is not there in just a photo.
And so when we put this into context, within the context of this exhibition, I mean, one, I love the juxtaposition of the main figure, the largest figure in the piece here, and then the women that surround her. And so what's sort of what ties them together for you as the creator of this piece in terms of telling women's stories?
Well, I believe the most important thing when I was creating it was always, whenever you give me these great challenges, I love them, by the way.
Thank you.
My first thought is, how does this tie with the overall theme? And the beauty part is always easy for me, you know, but the damned part, I had to look at the term damned. It can be very negative. But much like some other parts of our language, you can kind of embrace it and say and wear it as a badge of honor. So these women are badass women. These are some women who outsiders at their different time period will consider them damned, not equal, not part of the society as a whole. They are not normal. So in that respect, they are damned. Not to everyone, of course, but to a certain sector of the society that's viewing them, they would have been damned. So that is really where I was looking to tie in overall all of the images.
Great. And yeah, and they could also, in essence, be saying, you be damned, right?
Yes,
'Cause I
exactly.
am beautiful, right?
I am beautiful.
Exactly. And this beautiful piece here, tell us a little bit about this one.
Well, this one was the very last piece I made for you, I think, for this exhibit. And it was the last piece because it took me the longest, mainly because I had to find the right fence to hold everything I wanted to say. And throughout the whole process, I wanted a piece that really showed the female body. Initially, the woman is totally nude. She is from Ethiopia, and the image, I believe I received it from a National Geographic file. And when I looked at it, I said, okay, I really like this image. I have my old now. Now, what do I do to make it new? I have my beautiful. And the reason why I wanted a totally nude body is because the female body, especially Black female bodies, in respect to America and other parts of the world, have always been objectified and used as a form of commerce, as a form of exoticism, and thus damning us. Once again, I wanted to reclaim and make it, you be damned. I'm going to own my beauty. I'm going to own my body. If I want to be 400 pounds and wear a bikini, a bright white bikini on the beach, I can, because I'm confident in my body. If I want to show all the aches and the torture that I feel within the way you're viewing me, but still not be harmed by it, this is what I'm going to do. So the supporting images are images of just that. The tears, the woman on the bottom, she's one of my muses. There's certain images I use quite often in my work. The woman smoking a cigarette, she came from a protest march in Alabama, and the cop was going to arrest her, and she pretty much told him, not until I finish smoking my cigarette. And just,
Oh, wow.
her face is like, you're going to have to wait. I'm not.
I love it.
Yeah.
Just defiant to the end.
Very defiant, very defiant.
Well, I'm going to go to the next one now. Besties in Blue Magic.
Yeah, I wanted to just do something cute. Sometimes we have
This is
so much
wonderful. Yes.
Yeah, it's so much pressure being just a Black woman in general. And this is a time when we don't have to worry about it in our childhood for most of us. It's just about sitting on the porch stoop, eating that popsicle that you got from the ice cream truck and giggling at the boys being stupid, you know. Maybe it's a couple of days before Easter and your mom's in the kitchen with the hot comb on the stove and the Blue Magic is sitting on the counter, you know, and you can smell it. So this image I had seen many times, and I wanted to layer it. I wanted to make it more contemporary to kind of show the future that these girls had to look forward to as being grown women. So I took out their eyes, which were very innocent looking, and replaced them with older, more adult contemporary eyes that I felt would still belong to these girls if they were in our time,
Yes.
but would still be them. And in the one girl's case, I totally changed her face altogether.
Yeah, this is a really masterful piece. And, you know, I love the thought of the innocence of childhood. You know, in most cases, children at this age see the world with such wonder. And also, you know, that depends on the adults that are raising them, because, you know, sometimes at a very young age, racism and hatred becomes part of that child's environment. You know, they become indoctrinated into that thinking at a very young age. But here, these three innocent beauties are just, you know, at play. So this, and I love the way you've surrounded them with the sunflowers, which seems to be a running theme. And a lot of it really ties, you know, the you know, the when you're creating a body of work, and there's certain imagery, certain elements that you tie into the work that really makes that creates that interconnectivity, which is really quite beautiful. It's almost like a signature. You know, you look for Levette sunflowers, which may not always appear, but you know, it's beautiful when we find it. And
My
then
favorite flower.
yes, and
It's
then,
my
you know,
favorite.
talk a little bit about, because we didn't talk about process. We talked about materiality, but we didn't talk about process. So you mentioned it a little bit about sourcing your imagery. And for people who are not that familiar with your work, talk a little bit about that and then your process.
Well, the process usually starts with just an idea of a concept.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to talk about resistance? Am I going to talk about beauty? If I'm going to talk about a love or a certain theme. And then it comes to sourcing images. I have a huge, enormous lexicon. I actually have everything on one huge hard drive, all the images I source. And I source my images from several places. Generally, the National Library of Congress, which has a wonderful digital archive. The Smithsonian has a digital archive attached to that. The Schomburg has a fantastic, I really deep dive there. A bunch of HBCUs have very good digital archives, and most of the images there are copyright free, so I'm able to source those. And a lot of the images also are family, friends. People are it's very common for me to get slipped in my DM like, oh, I found this picture of my great great aunt, or I found this picture from my cousin. Or sometimes I'll go on my friends' pages and I'll be like, I really love this selfie you took. Can I borrow this for my work? And they're pretty good about allowing me to use them. Sometimes I'm digitally manipulating them before I even get to printing. But that's really where it starts with the research. Then after that, it's a matter of what am I going to put it on? In the past, it was always I'm doing on a fence. Now, which fence? Now I'm working on birchwood. I also work on wood slices and paper, specifically stone-inch paper. So it's how do I want this story to be told? What substrate am I using? Some of them I really love the fences for, because that's that extra symbolism that I need in the work. The idea of being held in and being held out, as with this piece. Some of them I want the image on a birchwood panel, because maybe I'm going to be doing more scorching, which I do with a torch, or using alternative materials like the bark cloth or cowrie shells or handmade papers. So it really depends on which story I'm looking to tell.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. That's a really wonderful explanation. So I'm going to move on to Monica. And Monica is, as she said, a portrait painter. And so, Monica, let's go through your work. Your work, as you will tell us, the primary focus is African American youth and current fashion trends. So, as a way of celebrating the Black aesthetic and self-identity. So, let's see that. Talk to us about Kelsey.
Okay, so like I said before, I usually have people come and model for me. So this one was Kelsey. There was actually another painting in the show with the name was Olivia. And Kelsey is Olivia's friend that they had. Like this is kind of like a birthday gift for her to have her painted. So we kind of arranged that up. So for this, for the Beautiful and the Damned show, I was working with the title, The Beautiful and the Damned. And for me, I was thinking of I wanted to do all female figures just because of like in terms of like clothing and the exterior image of how you see people. I think that women are judged more, and then in that group Black women also are just judged more. So I wanted to focus on all Black women, Black youth, Black girls, and then we have Kelsey here. And so again, I gave her the free range to do whatever she wanted. She brought me she had that dress. It was beautiful, gorgeous. And so, and then whenever I always paint people, I try to do it how it is. So like I don't try to alter it too much besides the color. Other than that, I try to keep it as is, so that's reflection of how they pose, how they actually presented themselves to me. And for me, I focus on the external image, so that's why I allow them to do as they want, do as they please. So I think that when you're looking at somebody, the external image, how they dress themselves, how they present themselves to you with their clothing, with their pose, with their gestures, says a lot about themselves, and they don't even have to speak. So with Kelsey, you can determine who she is through the dress that she chose, through the pose that she's standing in. And then the pink, I didn't alter the colors for this one. So the dress is actually pink. So this one, that's how it was, completely, truly. And but essentially I'm just working to help express what the sitter wants me to, like what they convey to me. I'm trying to convey it to an audience.
Okay, let's go to the next one. I want to ask you some questions, but I'm going to let you talk about the this one.
Okay,
Open.
And then we have open. Open is a part of a diptych, and one is open and one is closed. This one is me. It's a self-portrait. So again, with the identity and using clothing in order to show who you are. Like in society, I think that people they judge people based on what they're wearing. But with the Beautiful and the Damned show, I was trying to emphasize the idea like, even though you're being judged and people are like condemning you for like your choice of clothing, what you choose to do with your hair, your shirt, your accessories, like regardless of all that, you can still have the choice to present your ideas about yourself, present yourself as who you are. So for me, this is me. I'm a very relaxed person. I wear lots of like tank tops, leggings, jackets, and for this specific portrait, open and closed, there was two of them. One had the jacket open just like this one, the other one had it closed. The pose is a reflection of myself, but also a way of saying how you can use clothing in order to open up and express yourselves, or if you use it to hide yourself as well. But yeah, that's how that one goes.
Okay, all right, let's go to the next one. And I think one of the conversations that we've had before I go to the next piece, as it relates to your work, is that you have told me, and I'm paraphrasing, so I may not be quoting you verbatim, but your work is a response to, how you and your friends are perceived by other people, and other people meaning people outside of the Black culture, who may deem like you're dressing with a puffy jacket and a tank top as someone who's a threat, simply because of your appearance, and that you hope when people encounter your work and view your work that they will grow to appreciate the fact that the clothing and the hairstyles, which are often and criminalized, and there's laws in schools and other places about how Black hair can be worn, that people will move beyond those stereotypes and racist beliefs and give over to perhaps trying to understand the individual and experience them for who they are, and
Mhm.
not damn them or deem them a threat simply because of their appearance and their skin color.
Yeah, because I feel like with the Black image, there is a stereotypical view of how, Black boys wear hoodies and like girls have
Mhm.
long nails and wear weave and stuff like that. And there's only one grouping of how the Black male or the Black female is supposed to look. So with the portraits that I'm doing, I'm hoping that with every single person that I get, because every single person is different, that you see a different perspective of like what a Black person could look like, and it breaks down their stereotype that people have formed in their heads. So with this image, it prevents like a different idea of what a Black person could be with Kelsey's, and then with every image that I create, it's all
Mhm.
different perspective, because some people are more reserved, some people are more eccentric with their looks, so it all just gives like a different little insight of what the Black image could be, instead of like catering to that one image that has been portrayed over the years.
And share this with Kelsey, her dress was pink, but you shared with me
Mhm.
that what you were wearing that day was actually not red. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah. So what color was it actually, and why did you choose to portray or to create or paint the jacket red and yourself in red clothing?
Mhm. So in the painting, my tank top was actually like it was kind of like this blue, but like lighter. It was like a kind of like a baby bluish color. And then my leggings
Mm-hmm.
were black, and then the jacket was black as well. And Kelsey's, the pink really good. It went well with her skin tone, so I left it as is. And this one, because I was wearing multicolors and it wasn't matching at all. I was just going for the style of the clothing, not for the colors themselves. For
Mm-hmm.
me, I like bold colors, saturated colors, and for me, the red really stand out. It just stood out for me. Um, I couldn't imagine with like a green or like a purple, but the red, I don't know. It just fit perfectly for it. So yeah,
Yeah.
and it goes well with the skin tone. I don't know. It just worked.
Yeah, it really does. All right, let's look at Devin.
Okay. And then Devin, I actually went to high school with Devin. She
Okay.
was a year ahead of me, and then but I've been wanting to paint her for years. I finally got her. I DM'd her on Instagram. Um, but yeah, we set up the photo shoot, and then she came wearing this dress. Her dress was actually like pink, blue, and greenish, but I altered it just to
Mm.
fit the theme.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, that's just Devin. Also, her style is more like mine is more relaxed. Hers is more bold. She takes chances because I follow her on Instagram. Her fashion sense is out of this world. So when she came in with that dress, it was perfect. I think that perfectly captured how she like styles herself, and with her accessories, the belt, the chain, no, not the chain, her bracelet, my bad. But I don't know. I think it just captures herself and how she presents herself and how she carries herself perfectly.
Yeah, I love how you made the belt. Was the belt actually translucent like that? You could actually see through it?
Yeah, it was pink though, so I changed it. It was a
Ah.
little bit tweaking, but yeah, it was translucent.
Mm-hmm. And tell us, about these lush backgrounds, like especially in Devon, what you
Mhm.
did with the background. And so talk to us about that choice, your color choice, the style, the stylization of it. Talk to us about that.
So in my earlier paintings, I did like the fabrics. So with the fabric, I would take elements from the clothing and then put it into the background, like the same way that you would dress yourself. I would use the same fabric to dress the background of the piece. Now I'm going for a more flatter way of working. So in this painting, I still wanted to take elements of what she was wearing. So I took the flower that were on her dress and I put it into the background, but like desaturated it so it wouldn't compete with the figure as much.
Mm.
But yeah, just throwing that in the background as a way to like relate the background and the figure and not make it seem so separate.
Yeah, beautiful. And I should have said stylized. So it's really beautiful. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm going to move on to Megan now. So, Megan, your figurative work. Now, you are really known as a muralist. I mean, you have murals all over the city and probably beyond. But what you do in your painting practice and on canvas is just incredible.
Thank
So,
you.
you know, I say you wield a palette knife with the precision of a surgeon. I mean, you create these beautiful, lush textures on your canvas. So let's take a look at your work and tell us about it.
Can I just say I've been wanting to paint Devin for a minute too, by the way. Yeah, it's just something about, you know, her. I just one day. So this piece right here, to make a million songs about it. So I'm drawn to these people by their eyes, by their gestures, and I find like pieces or whole pieces of who they are, of feelings that I have, and then project those feelings. So a thing about my work, I like my subjects and my work to be mysterious, right? Like I don't want to reveal too much. Like I want to bring to the surface these feelings, but don't reveal them almost. So my responses might be a little vague, unfortunately, because I do want to keep it, you know, to myself, because the work is really about me. Like I project so much of myself onto these subjects. It's ridiculous. Like the way I handle the paint is so much personality in it. I don't know where to start. You know, I like to fantasize a little bit as well with the backgrounds. Sometimes it's something I've seen before, and then I'll project it onto, you know, the subject, kind of merge two different feelings together. Yeah. You want to ask me a question maybe so I can?
Yes. So I have a couple of questions. Well, I'll stay with the figure for a moment, but I do want to ask you about your titles as well. But so tell us that you always have the outward gaze
Mhm.
plays a critical role in how people engage with your work. And so I'm often, you know, asked about that as people are looking. They always comment about how intriguing that is. And so can you tell us a little bit about your intention behind that? And another question I receive often is why the red lips?
So I'll answer that question first. So I wore my
All
red
right.
on purpose because I do get that question often. My work is really so much about me. Like I paint their lips red because I just love the color red. Like I wear it all the time. I refuse to wear anything else. So it's more intuitive just to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like my
Mm-hmm.
work is about me. Like why not almost slightly make these subjects, you know, look like me just slightly, right? So and eyes, like if you ever talk to me, even though I wear glasses sometimes because I'm nervous,
Mm-hmm.
I love eye contact. Like a lot of people cannot do it, right? And there's just something about the eyes. I always paint the eyes first. It's like I'll start my way in and work my way out. Always start painting the eyes
Mm.
first. There's something about it, and I love a side eye. I love it. It's like a, you know, like I catch people in conversation. I'm able to engage in that. Like the way he's looking, it's like he's almost caught in the action. And I'm just like really, really drawn to it for whatever reason. Like I'm still trying to figure out what all this, you know, work means. I'm just really drawn to this specific image that I saw, and I had to just project, you know, who, like what happened, or my feelings at that time, like to make a million songs about it. One of my mentors told me that because I run to them anytime, you know, I get my little feelings hurt. And they told me, like, look,
Mm.
they make a million songs about what you're going through, like, let it go. And
Mm.
this gesture, this pose, the way he was looking just fit that emotion so well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, it's the gaze, which does vary, but it's always so prominent in your work
mm,
because it really is a device that draws people in. It's really impactful.
yeah.
So, you know, it works extremely well. And thank you for the explanation. And, you know, I've been to your studio a few times and I know you love music. It's always playing in the background. So I wondered if it was inspired by a song that you heard or lyrics from a song or something. But I love that. And so this piece.
So this is of a subject. So usually I don't like to know my subjects, but this is one of the first images that I took by myself. Like I had my eye on this person. His name is Dez, right? I had my eye on him for like 2 years. He's a squeegee boy. And, you know, I kept pushing it off, pushing it off, pushing it off. And one day, like for 2 weeks, he didn't show up. And I was like, you know what, I had 2 years to take his picture. I need to just stop playing. So as soon as he came back, I took his picture. And like, I was just really drawn to him. Great eye contact. And again, just projecting bits of my life onto him. So one of my favorite movies is The Pursuit of Happiness. And it's like you see that little square, this little box, and that's like a window of opportunity. So it's either you're going to take it or you're not, right? And it can mean anything to anybody, but for me, it's like I'm pursuing what I want, right? And that window is very small. It can be very big. You just have to go after it. And he's posing in front of it, like, what are you going to do? Like you gotta make things happen. So
I mean, I love this piece for many reasons. One, I think you captured his essence. I know him. I don't know him personally, but as soon as I saw that, I knew who he was because he is a squeegee boy in our community. He is so polite. He nods. He says hello. He'll draw a little heart on your window with his squeegee. He'll politely nod. He is just such a gentleman. And I told Alex, it's like that young man, I believe he's a genius. If he had the right opportunity, and he will, because I know that I'm not the only person that recognizes the potential there. I was thrilled to see his portrait.
Yeah. As artists, we just don't paint anybody, right? It's something about certain people. Like when I first seen him, he had a red do-rag. I believe it was satin. It's like 100 degrees outside. And he had the same like white beater on, right? And it just was something about him, like his smile, the way he was moving.
Always smiling.
Instantly, like I have to paint him. And it was like maybe 4 other people standing around him, but it was him specifically. And, I have a very cool like exterior, but my work is like very emotional. That's why it's so, intense and so scattered. But also I'm very, sarcastic and playful. And you can really just see like what I'm going through, how I choose to express myself through the palette.
I think another thing I like about this painting, because again, a lot of your work comes from your imagination. So it's a composite of people that you've encountered, and then you're putting your like feelings and emotions into it. With this young man, we know him, and I just on occasion, on rare occasions, I have a conversation with him, but you have just so beautifully captured the essence of who he is, and especially in his eyes, which, that outward gaze, because he's always looking you directly in your eyes. Like there is some pride that he feels, as an entrepreneur, right? He's one of the honest guys out there just trying to make a living. And if you don't want him to wash your windshield, he'll just give you a polite nod and a wave and just keep moving on, But this is such a beautiful, beautiful portrait of this young man.
Thank you. I'm happy he was able to pose for me.
Yeah. And did you photograph him?
I've painted him like 3 times so far. I have to stop. I think I'm obsessed a little bit.
He's your muse right now.
He's really my muse right now. I have to turn it back a little bit, but yeah.
Cool. And then this brilliant piece.
So this is my first, what is this, horizontal piece. Again, when I came across this image, I instantly thought of a moment that I went through. So I like to keep busy. Sometimes like I'll suppress what I'm feeling by just doing stuff. And when I'm still is when I think about, the stuff I've went through. That's where the title comes from. Like I still think about it sometimes, right? Because when I'm still, like all those emotions kind of rush in because you have a second just to be still. And I chose to put them in a garden because, you know, it's just a reflection of beauty, right? Of calmness. So even though my mind is rushing in this still moment, I still think of those experiences to be beautiful, even though it was harsh, right? So anytime something happens, I'll go, no, even though it hurts, I'll say it was still a lovely experience, right? So it's like he's sitting in that experience because he's laying down and he's reflecting on it. So.
I love this. You, all three of you, created such brilliant work for this exhibition. We've had groups of people come here. We had a group of, I forgot, like 10 last week, and some big group came through today. I didn't encounter them because Kai was in the gallery and she took care of them. But people are just blown away by every piece that's in the show. It is one of the most powerful exhibitions that we've installed here. So I thank you all for putting your heart and soul into creating these thought-provoking works that resonate so strongly with everyone for different reasons. They're so relatable. So I want to I'm going to stop the PowerPoint right now and invite people, if they want to pose questions, to put them in the chat. Wow, we've got a large group that's joined us this evening. So if you all have questions for the artist, please put them in the chat and then I'll convey them. Is there anything else that you all would like to speak to? We have like 15 minutes. I have some more questions I can pose, but if there's something that I failed to ask during your presentation, or maybe you want to ask each other questions, is there something that you'd like to pose a question? We have one question. Let's see. Are any of the artists in art fairs? I think I can answer that. So coming up, I was going to go through our upcoming exhibitions, but there's several things that are on the horizon. So tomorrow, we have work coming to auction at Christie's in New York, and there are 6 artists participating, and Monica is one of the artists that's participating in that. In October, we're showing Levette's work, her works on paper, at the International, what is it? It's always an acronym, International Fine Print Art Dealers Fair at the Davis Center in New York, and that's October 27th through the 30th. And then at art, well, let me back up for a moment. In an exhibition at the Banneker Douglas Museum in Annapolis, Maryland, it's a large group show of Maryland artists. It's a state museum, so it could only feature Maryland artists, but Monica and Megan are participating in that. And then at the end of the year, we are participating in Context Art Fair, and I'm featuring the work of Monica and Megan. And Levette, I think your other gallery is featuring you at which exhibition, which fair?
Art Miami,
Art Miami. Okay, so we're going to be next door to each other.
right there.
So we'll all be at Basel. So thank you for your question. Let's see, we have another question. How does Megan and Monica convince people to allow their photos to become artwork for display? How do you convince people to, you know, like, hey, let me paint you? What's that approach like? Megan?
You want to go first?
You want to go first?
No, you go first.
Okay. So for me, the way I get people, I usually ask them, or I'll take on volunteers. And when you volunteer, you just volunteer, and then we just set up. They give me permission because they're volunteering, so they know beforehand that I'm going to be using it for the paintings. And if I do ask them, I still inform them that it'll be used in a painting and it'll eventually be sold. So you let them know beforehand, so they always know about it.
For you, Megan?
So yeah, same process. Usually I don't have to pay my subjects, but I did pay the squeegee boy because, you know, it's a business, so I get it. And yeah, usually I just show them my work and they just say yes. Yeah. And like I inform them, you know, it's going to be sold. Do you have a problem with it? And it's no issue, never. So
Good. Does Des, is that his name, correct?
yes,
Has he seen the paintings?
we follow each other on Instagram. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay, cool.
That's so cool.
Awesome. And I should say that like recently, my grandson posed for Monica. So I think we may be featuring that painting at Basel, but we'll see. I don't know. Now the family's starting to fight over it already. So we'll see if it makes it there. All right, we have another question. Has Levette considered using photos like Megan and Monica?
Yes, actually, I have. I'm doing a whole new body of work for a new series next year where I'm kind of trolling my friends and family's Instagram, looking for just the right images to represent contemporary versions of gods, goddesses, myths, and legends. So yeah, you never know, you might get a DM. So, I've photographed my own family for some of the people already, but if you know anything about the African gods and goddesses, there's so many of them, and African American folk tales have a lot of characters within it, so I have a lot of people to fill.
Yeah, I think even in your statement for this show, you talked about putting women, Black women, on a celestial plane. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a piece that's in the show that's what I'm looking at to be the entryway to that series, and it's called Through Her Eyes, and it's actually a friend of mine from Philadelphia, and I once again saw the image and I said, "Can I use this photo?" And she was like, "Sure." And then I did a little digital editing to change the color on it, and but I wanted her to exude herself almost as if she's a newborn goddess, and it came out absolutely stunning. It's one of my favorite pieces.
Oh, beautiful. Monica, this question is for you, but I would like for Megan and Levette to respond to this as well. Will you make large scale works?
Okay, so the works that I make now are like 3 feet by 4 feet, and that's the size that I'm comfortable with, just because the way when I paint the figures, they're life size and they're like the same scale as the people who are looking at it. They're like slightly life size. I mean, slightly bigger. But I have considered going bigger, probably in the near future. I don't know how big I'll get though, so it's still in the works. It's the size right now. Like I like that size, and it's like customary for me to do it for years. But I am thinking of going bigger.
What about you, Megan?
Yes. My favorite size. Yeah. My favorite size is like 36 by 48. But right, yeah. It's just something about it. I just really like it. It gets to the point of what I need for the moment. But you know, as I continue to explore, then yes, absolutely.
I mean, you're a muralist, so I could see your work growing on canvas to be pretty
Yeah.
big. And I think what the paintings you did of Des are what, 70 by, can't remember the dimension, but
36
those
by
are
72.
Yeah, those were the largest I've seen of your work.
Right.
Well,
Like,
that we've handled thus far. So I know you had some big ones.
yeah, it's like I've painted huge for so long. I just like the small size, but also my studio isn't big, so that has something to do with the canvas choices as well.
Okay. And then Levette, you have 2 large pieces currently in this show. Do you think I know that on the fences that kind of restricts your size, but do you believe at some point you're going to go much larger, or you desire to do that?
I did, I would say about 4 years ago, I had a commission for a small museum to do an extended large fence, which is pretty much, and I did a fence that was literally 2 fence panels together. So a fence panel on average, the width of it is about 60 inches wide. So, and the average height can be anywhere from 70 to 72. So that's pretty much the largest I've gone. And that was a huge, I have a large studio, but let me tell you, lugging fence panels from one side to the other for the different parts of my process, no fun at all. No fun at all. Thank God I have big sons.
So the questions keep coming in. So so I guess this question is, what artists inspire each one of you? Whose works are you inspired by? Levette, you want to go first?
Oh, I have so many. Oh God. I guess if that's a tough question, because if you asked me when I was younger, I would have said easily Elizabeth Catlett, Romary Bearden, Alma Thomas.
Mhm.
Then as I was going through school, it was Kara Walker, Kehinde Wiley, and now I'm at a certain point where a lot of these people I know personally. So it's like, pick one.
Yeah.
There's so many. I guess in respect to my personal practice, I would say Deborah Roberts
Mhm.
is someone I really admire, and I love her work. A friend of mine from Atlanta, Shaniqua Gay, I love her work.
Oh yeah.
And of course, my friend Delita Martin. And if you want to talk, a new friend that started to help me with abstraction more, Amber Robles Gordon. I love her idea of texture. And then I can't forget my bestie, Lisa Butler, only because we've been through the trenches for so long. So that's
Nice.
pretty much it.
What about you, Monica? Who inspires you?
For me, I like the contemporary portrait painters that are around now. Like, you have Kehinde Wiley, you have Amy Sherrill, you have Jordan Castile. Also, I like Barkley Hendricks, his work as well. A lot of painters that deal with like color. But my all-time favorite right now is a painter that I saw in New York, Jennifer Packer. Have you heard of her?
I have not.
Oh yeah.
Look her up, extreme color.
Right.
So I'm in love with her right now.
And I have another question for you. Well, let me allow Megan to respond to that. Then I have a question for you.
I'll keep it short. I'll just say Ernie Barnes is my favorite.
Oh, cool.
Of all time.
Cool.
No comparison.
So Levette's work is very narrative. And in that, there's a lot of storytelling going on with various images of women on whatever medium she chooses, either the fences or the birchwood and others. So primarily with you, Monica and Megan, you have a single figure. Are you thinking of making your works more narrative, like interaction between subjects? I know, Monica, at times you've had like your twin sisters, which is a painting that's in the current show, but have you thought of creating more narrative works?
You want to go or should I go?
Yeah, either one, please. Monica,
Okay.
you go first.
So I know in Venice, I had that one long painting
Yes,
with the
that's true.
figures and the environment. So
The
that one was
outside.
kind of like the only narrative piece that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
I've done street scenes before and I've considered doing them again, but I don't know in what capacity I would do it again. So that may be a road that I could go into. But right now I'm still thinking of doing the one figure, but I do want multiple figures. But the problem with that is, since I'm taking on volunteers, it's hard to find groups of people that would like to volunteer all at once. Yeah, so that's why it's been like 2 people, maybe up to 3. But I do want to get a group of people, like maybe up to 5 or 6. But I just have to get the right amount of people to agree at the same time.
Yes, cool. What about you, Megan?
I'm
sorry. Yes.
Yeah, Monica hit it. That's a big thing. Getting people to all be in one spot and interact and have it flow and actually mean something, So, yeah. But definitely, I've done it in the past, but it's for right now something about one figure but definitely they can hold their own. So
cool. Well, we are nearing the end of our time here, and we still have a lot of questions. We have one about NFTs, which I have no opinion on. I don't know anything about them and will probably never deal with them. Do you all want to respond to that? Okay. And then,
Waiting. I'm
and then,
waiting.
yeah, I'm
I'm
trying to
waiting.
still figure that out. And then we have a lovely comment from someone who says, your works are so layered and vibrant. I can feel the movement, the temperature, and the emotions. I'm floored. Is there an inherent trait or something that you have to learn, that you have to learn? So I just read the question as it's written. So I guess maybe that's an aspiring artist who wants to get in your head in terms of perhaps your technique, or what is it that you draw from to create such compelling works, I guess, perhaps just trying to sum it up there.
I can
Anybody
go.
want to take that one on? Go ahead.
Monica,
I'll
you
go.
go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, I would say my work is heavily focused on detail. So when doing that, like the reference photos are very important. So when I take the photos, I'm taking a picture of like close-ups of the face, close-up of the hands, close-up of the patterns of the dress. And then from there, I essentially just go in and I paint. And then sometimes I do edit like the colors. Sometimes if I can't do it from memory, I'll do it on Photoshop, and I'll prepare the picture then. And then I'll just paint from that. And then for me, a characteristic trait is like using outlines. Outlines create like the sharpness in the image. Sometimes people say it makes it look flat. I don't think it does. But using outlines, high color saturation, like trying not to like dull the color. I don't know, things like that, understanding light and the way that it moves over the form, understanding color and how like how to replace it and it still makes sense, stuff like that.
Megan, did you want to respond?
So what is in her? So I mean, my dad, he builds houses, so he's good with his hands, but there aren't many artists in our family. And what have you learned? I mean, that's pretty much it. I think I was born to be an artist. I think I have the mind of an artist. And if I wasn't an artist, I would probably be an engineer that, you know, because they put stuff together and they think differently. So yeah, I just was very lucky. I had family, well, mother and father who pushed me to do what I love.
Beautiful. That's a great answer. And Levette?
Well, I think some of it came with training. I did have training. I do have formal training, but I would say even with the formal training, I always loved texture. I always loved history. My life in general tends to be very layered. So I think in a lot of ways it subliminally comes out in my work. You know, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, a teacher, a friend, a grandmother, you know, entrepreneur, you name it. You know, I'm a Black woman, just I got it. So I think in a way that kind of comes out in the work. Plus, I found when I look at other people's work, I'm more intrigued with work that has a lot going on because I want to break it down to levels. When I look at Megan's work, like I'm always marveled at the heavy impasto and how she's layering the paint in different areas. And same thing with Monica's work. I love the almost seamless brushwork. And even with the seamless brushwork, you still see how many layers she built up to get to that. So that always, you know, dazzles me in general as a artist and someone who appreciates art.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. This has been an absolutely wonderful discussion. I invite those who have joined us this evening to stop by the gallery. If you haven't, the exhibition, The Beautiful and the Damned, is up until November 5th. This Friday, we have a meet and greet. All of the artists will be here. Come on in, talk to them. We'll have refreshments and music. You can get deeper into their heads. They can talk to you about every nuance in these brilliant works that they've created for the show. So thanks again. Thank you all, Megan, Monica, and Levette. This was an absolute joy spending time with you tonight. And you guys have a good rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.